So this week we've been talking about how Bill Maher and Sam Harris had an interesting conversation where Ben Affleck came in and called him out for being honestly bigoted on the issue of Muslims. Now, a lot of people don't agree with that. I tried to make a nuanced case yesterday explaining that, for example, as a person who does not believe in any of the religions, I'm very much against Islam. But at the same time, I'm not against all Muslims, because it doesn't make sense. It's not a rational position to have. Now, people keep saying, no, Maher and Sam Harris didn't say that, except Mark almost clearly did, as we showed in the tape yesterday, when Ben Affleck said over 1 billion people aren't all bad guys. Maher said, yes, they are. Okay, now, to me, that indicates that Bill Maher doesn't know a lot of Muslims. But in this case, don't worry, Bill, you've made a lot of new friends. All right, let's show you some of Bill Maher's new friends. First, we start with Don Lemon.
Is it fair to call Sam Harris and to call Bill Maher, who are noted liberals, to call them bigots because they are asking certain questions about Islam? And they're atheists as well. To call them because they're having a discussion about Islam on television, is that fair?
Well, I don't think being liberal shields you from being bigoted. There are plenty of bigoted liberals.
Here's Mark Lamont Hill trying to straighten out Don Lemon. Don, always with not a clear understanding of the issues. They're not just calling out Islam. If they criticize Islam, that would not separate the current conversation with what they've done 1,000,000 times, and I've supported them when they went after the religion and the ideology of Islam. We don't agree with that, being atheists and agnostics. That's why we call it out. I've never had a problem with Bill Maher or Sam Harris doing that. So that's not the issue at all. And then the framing of the question, can liberals be bigots? Like, he stated as like, that's really weird. If you're a liberal, obviously you can't, by definition, be a bigot. I mean, I hope that that's the case, but I think that that's probably not the case, as Mark Lamont Hill pointed out. And then, of course, Ben Ferguson, who's a conservative talk show host who you saw in that clip, later in that segment came in with, oh, Bill Maher, way to be. The Muslims are the real problem. And that's the kind of thinking that has sprouted up from this, even if it was not Maher's intention. Unfortunately, that's the guys who are supporting him. And if it was me, I'd want to straighten it out and go, I'm not with Ben Ferguson, let alone Don Lemon, let alone all the people I'm about to show you. They're misunderstanding my position. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad and they're worse than Christians or Jews and they're all naturally inclined towards violence, etc., that I keep saying every day on the show. Anyway, that he keeps saying every week, I should say, on the show. All right, straighten us out, Bill. All right, now, more people on Bill Maher's side.
No, guys, you're missing the point here. He's arguing about 2014. And oftentimes people will go back and say, yeah, but the Christians and the Crusaders, they were bad too.
Bill.
All right, we got it 600 years ago. But in 2014...
Bill, he indicted 1 billion Muslims with that comment. It's simply not true.
Who did? I can't believe I'm defending Bill Maher here.
Bill Maher did.
He did not indict 1 billion. He talked about radical Islam.
Yep. No, he didn't. We showed the tape. When Affleck said you're indicting over 1 billion people, he said, yeah, they're guilty. Look, go back and watch the video we did yesterday, get the exact quotes on what he said, okay? So, great, you have Bill Hemmer of Fox News on your side. And he says one of those pernicious things that drive me crazy. Oh, when the Christians, sure, of course, there was the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition and all that and all the wars. But that was all 600 years ago. Christians haven't done anything bad in 600 years. But wait a minute, you guys are the ones that started World War I and World War II, okay? Oh, no, those doesn't count. They happen to be Christian. But Christianity can't get blamed from that. But when you say, well, these guys happen to be Muslim, no. It's because they're Muslim. We hate the Muslims. The Muslims are all wrong. But wait, the Nazis had Gott mit uns, God with his... Nah, it's just a coincidence. Nah, that's left over from World War I when they started the other war that killed millions and millions and millions of people, and they thought their Christian God was with them then. No, but it doesn't count. It never counts. Well, how about when we started the Iraq War, a country that is predominantly Christian, we are, right, started a war in Iraq where hundreds of thousands of civilians, innocent civilians, were killed. Well, that doesn't count. They're just collateral damage, and we didn't quite mean it, and we're not really a Christian nation. I mean, the people who started the war were Christians. In fact, the guy who started it, George W. Bush, is a fundamentalist Christian who believes that Gog and Magog were going to come out of it, but it doesn't count. It never counts. When Christians do bombings, when Jews do bombings, it never counts. Only when a Muslim does a bombing. Now, goddamn Muslims. Well, congratulations, Bill Maher. Bill Hemmer, Fox News, is on your side. Ooh, speaking of Fox News, you're about to get even more heavyweight support. Let's watch.
Right now, the ISIS terrorists are attacking a town in Syria very close to the Turkish border. Civilians are fleeing in panic because these ISIS savages are known to slaughter innocent people. Meantime, Turkish tanks and troops do nothing, sitting on their side of the border watching the carnage unfold. Turkey is a Muslim country.
See, it's all the Muslims, even Turkey. Okay, now, Turkey is in NATO. In fact, they're the second largest army in NATO. So he says Turkey's just sitting there doing nothing, won't send in ground troops. Oh, really, Bill? Who else won't send in ground troops? Oh, right, us. We're the largest army in NATO, the United States is, and we're not sending in ground troops. Instead, we point to the Turks and go, why don't you do something about it? We're Christians, we're not going to do anything about it. Why don't you go? And if they went in and there was some violence, they'd say, see, Muslims, all they know is violence. The president of Turkey, who I have a ton of disagreements with, said, okay, look, we asked the West to support moderate Syrian rebels, a position I don't necessarily agree with. But he said, but we asked them to do that. We asked them to do no-fly zone, etc. They never did any of the things that we asked for. Our parliament just voted to go to war with ISIS. We're here. We're providing support. And if ground troops are going to go in, it's likely our ground troops. But you don't give us any of that. And then Bill O'Reilly's going to turn around and say, you see the Muslims in Turkey, they won't help us. Please. And by the way, what are you going to tell Turkey? Hey, trust us. The last time we went into Iraq, it turned out great. Please send your troops into Iraq. That's not really a convincing argument. But more importantly than anything else here, great, Bill Maher, you've started a snowball of people on TV saying it's all Muslims. Here's more.
There are about 1.6 billion Muslims, and 35 countries practice some kind of Sharia law. That means they are governed by people who abide by principles of Islam that are controversial, to say the least. In some places, you can even be stoned to death for committing a sin. A study published by the Pew Research Center last year asked Muslims if they favor Sharia law. In Afghanistan, 99% do. Pakistan, 84%. Iraq, 91%. Egypt, 74%. Jordan, 71%. So you can see that millions of Muslims think their religion should dictate what happens in society.
Kind of like Antonin Scalia, one of our Supreme Court justices, who just said, well, we can favor religion over non-religion. That's perfectly constitutional in America, which, by the way, is not true. Okay? So here's Bill O'Reilly. By the way, he left out the rest of that chart. All the other Muslim countries that did not rank highly in terms of supporting Sharia law, the Indonesias, which is the most populous Muslim country. In fact, the great majority of the most populous Muslim nations are not in the Middle East, are not Arab countries. They never get mentioned. But, you know, you throw up the Jordans and the Egypts, et cetera, there, and then you go, you see, voila, all Muslims. That's part of this trick. But the more important part of that trick in this case is when he says they're in favor of Sharia law. Well, now, Sharia law is interpreted completely differently by different areas. So there are some parts that say Sharia law means that if you steal something, we cut off your hand, or if you kill someone, we cut off your head, etc. Now, there are other people who interpret Sharia law as, if you ask them, are you in favor of Sharia law? That is the law that Muslims are supposed to follow. They go, well, obviously. And they don't mean beheadings. They don't mean dismemberings. They mean, do I follow the Quran? Yeah, I follow the Quran. If you ask evangelicals in this country, do you follow biblical law? What percentage would say yes? An overwhelming percentage, right? In fact, they'd be embarrassed to say they don't follow biblical law. But if they actually followed biblical law, they wouldn't eat shrimp. They wouldn't have clothes of two different fabrics. And, oh yeah, the other thing they would do is they would murder the infidels. Read Deuteronomy. If you take the Bible literally, you're supposed to kill everyone who doesn't believe in the same religion as you. That's also in the Bible. But you see, they don't, all the billions of Christians in the world don't literally believe that. And guess what? Neither do the billions of Muslims in the world. They're not going around killing everybody. You're taking a small group of people and saying, that's it, 1.6 billion people. A dude in Malaysia's got nothing to do with those beheadings happening in Syria. But they want to smear everybody, and that is the definition of bigotry. One more.
Enter uber liberals Bill Maher and Ben Affleck. Mr. Maher is an anti-religionist. He despises all organized religion, makes no secret of that. Mr. Affleck is a traditional liberal, a fervent supporter of President Obama and of many left-wing causes. However, Mr. Maher is correct on the overall effect Islam's having on the world right now. The truth is, many Muslim nations have not confronted Islamic terrorism, have not attacked violence in the name of Allah, and have not even condemned the jihad. There is an exception to the rule, but they are few. The truth is that the Islamic jihad could not exist if not for Muslim nations turning away. Turkey could crush ISIS right this minute, but Turkey does nothing. Criticism of Islam's role on the world stage is certainly valid. The Muslim world needs to take a hard look at itself.
The United States could crush ISIS right this minute, but yet it does nothing. It does not send in the ground troops, just like Turkey. Now you say, wait, that's not fair. We're at least doing bombings. Actually, Turkey has joined in supporting our bombings and in participating in that. In fact, if you remember, the first set of bombings were with a coalition of Muslim countries. You remember the female pilot from the United Arab Emirates that launched the first set of bombs? Saudi Arabia, etc. They have joined the fight against ISIS. So what Bill O'Reilly is telling you is literally not true. It's the opposite of true. He's lying on purpose to smear every Muslim in the world. Now, the last part of that that's relevant is this guy saying you have to speak out against your own radicals, your own fundamentalists that cause violence. Well, that's interesting because there was a guy who killed an abortion provider named Dr. Tiller. And a guy on television kept calling Dr. Tiller the baby killer. And the guy who shot him heard that, went and killed Dr. Tiller because he was a baby killer. Who was the guy who kept saying Killer the baby killer? Tiller the baby killer? Yeah, that was Bill O'Reilly. Bill, have you condemned yourself recently? I mean, here's a guy who was a fundamentalist Christian, Scott Roeder, who killed someone that you were calling a baby killer. And have you come out and said it is the fault of that Christian for doing a Christian fundamentalist, radical, violent act? And by the way, I'd like to apologize to the Tiller family and to everyone else involved for helping to provoke that violent act. Funny, I haven't seen that apology, Bill. And if you care to know, CARE, which is the largest Muslim American organization, has condemned every one of these Muslim bombings, attempted bombings, any violent act in the United States that comes from a Muslim extremist. CARE puts out a huge statement every time. And they send it to Fox News. What's weird is that Fox News hasn't aired a single one of those. And then they turn around and go, you see that? These Muslims, they never say anything, except for the press releases they sent to my office. Bill Maher, you must be so proud of your new friends. Okay. Now, not done yet. Now I feel compelled in the midst of this controversy about Islam versus Muslims and what you can and should criticize and what you shouldn't, to tell you the most obvious things in the world, because apparently a lot of people don't get it. So there's this idea that some Muslim countries, well, they believe that you should have draconian punishments against apostates like me. I'm an ex-Muslim. I left Islam. That's because I don't believe in Islam, which I feel like I've said 100 times in the last couple of days, right? That's why I actively left the religion. Now, if you'd like to see if I speak out against Islamic fundamentalists, have at it, Hoss. Our YouTube channel is filled with my rage against Islamic fundamentalists for anywhere from, you name it, the female genital mutilation, the honor killings, the beheadings, every radical act we've gone nuts about on this show. In fact, I don't know any outlet that was talking about Boko Haram before we were, or ISIS before we were, okay? We've been on those guys and we've been telling you how dangerous and radical they are throughout. Now, my issue, of course, is when you say those guys are horrible, then you say, well, it extends to all Muslims, because some Muslim countries agree with some portion of radical Islam. So that must mean that all Muslim nations are guilty and hence all Muslims are guilty. Now that's counterfactual, as we've explained on other shows. But when you explain facts and statistics to people, sometimes they get it, sometimes their eyes glaze over, or sometimes they just don't want to listen to it. So let me tell you stories about people I know, because apparently people need to hear this. All right, so as an ex-Muslim, I have family who are Muslim, right? In fact, I have a lot of them. Almost my entire family is Muslim. So I pick people at random, just whoever jumped to the top of my head when I was thinking about it. My uncle Muhtar, he's my mom's older brother. What does he do? Well, this scary, dangerous Muslim likes to take pictures of sunsets, flowers, streams, other bodies of water, and then he puts it on the internet, and then people vote on it. And when his picture comes in #1, he gets really excited. He did radical Islam. If I told my uncle, well, what do you think of radical Islam? He would say what almost every Turk I know would say, Allah belallarını versin, which means literally, may God damn them. Okay. If you go to Uncle Muhtar and you say, hey, what are you up to today? He's like, oh, I'm going to take more pictures. He's so respected now in the picture-taking community, which I didn't realize existed, but I'm sure I should have recognized that, right? In the world, that when other people see him, they go, Hoja, means like teacher. Teacher, tell us how to take pictures. If you said to him, hey, what are you doing to fight radical Islam? He'd be like, I don't know, was I supposed to be doing something? I mean, he's what now? He's almost 70 years old. He's like, what am I didn't know I was supposed to do something. I was taking pictures of flowers, right? I got my Aunt Ushal, who's a family friend. You know, she's my best friend's mom. We used to live in the apartment building and right next to one another, right? And we'd go play literally ball, chess, backgammon, everything at her house. And she used to cook my favorite, what we call creme caramel, flan. And every time I went back to Turkey to visit, she would cook me the same flan. She doesn't want to come to America. Why? Dangerous Muslim? No, she's a socialist, and she thinks America's capitalism is ruining the world. Okay. Now, we have people up here in headdresses. Now, most of the people I know don't wear headdresses that are Muslim. If you try to put my Aunt Ushal in a headdress, you'd have some problems on your hands. Okay. Under penalty of law, she would not put that thing on. Okay. See, there are different kinds of Muslims. When you've told these people, hey, you know what? Are you Muslim? They say, of course I am. What do you? If I ask you, are you a Christian? If you're a Christian, what do most Christians say? Well, of course I'm a Christian. What do you mean? Are you trying to impute that I don't believe in God, that I don't have faith? My great aunt Melek, what does she like to do? She likes to cook kibbeh, and she likes to talk a lot. Everybody loves her, but she talks a lot. Maybe like an aunt you have who likes to cook cookies, but talks too much or talks too little. Is this boring you? I'm trying to bore you. They're normal people. They're not all radical Muslims trying to bomb people. But you see, when you think of Christians, you think of Christians you know. When you think of Jews, you think of Jews you know. And you think of Uncle Bob, and you think of, Aunt Harriet, right? But when you think of Muslims, you think scary, scary, scary. Oh my God, they're going to do something crazy. No, they're not. They're going to take pictures. They're going to make flan and kibbeh. Okay? We call it içli köfte. My mom is in business. She's a small business owner. She makes napkins and other home textiles. They've been in Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's. She's going to kill me because I'm not giving you the fancy stores she's in. I remember some of them, and others escape me. Okay. See, she's not actually going to kill me. She makes napkins. Okay. My grandmother is a boastful person. That's probably where I got it from. Okay. She would boast that she was the top dressmaker in her little town in Kilis. Okay. She would also say that she was the prettiest woman in Kilis. That's where my great aunt over her shoulder would go. My great aunt Sabiha is the greatest person anyone who's ever met her has ever met. I don't know anyone who ever met Sabiha Hala who didn't say, God, that's the loveliest woman in the world. If you went to her, she recently passed away, she was 100 years old. If you went to her on her 99th birthday and say, why aren't you fighting radical Islam? She'd be like, I don't know, I was making tea. Of course, they're just like us. Now, that doesn't mean that Islam isn't wrong, just like it doesn't mean Christianity isn't wrong. If your favorite Uncle Bob's a really good Christian and he goes to church every Sunday, But there's some bad Christians who do abortion clinic bombings or who start wars in Iraq or who do other terrible things. That doesn't mean Uncle Bob's a bad guy. And if you said all Christians, because of what fundamentalists believe, like they're rooting for Armageddon where we all die, etc., and you said all Christians believe that, well, obviously you'd be wrong. And if you said all Christians were bad guys and they didn't fight the fundamentalists enough, you'd be wrong. What does Uncle Bob have to do with the fundamentalists, right? Well, obviously the same is true of Muslims. Now, would I like to change some parts of Christian culture? Yes, I would. I'm not against fighting against certain parts of culture even, okay? Would I like to change certain parts of Muslim culture? Yes, I would, okay? But that doesn't mean the 1.6 billion practitioners of Islam throughout the world are all guilty. All of this should be incredibly obvious, but we had to do this segment because apparently it isn't. All right, let's take a break and come right back.
That was a segment from hour one of the show.
Now for the better hour, the second hour.
Drums. You can get the whole show on TYTnetwork.com.
All right, back on the Young Turks. So, let's address a bunch of things here. We got some tweets. What's up, Casper?
Hi.
Casper gave me credit like I was a 4-year-old during the break for knowing that her dress is not red but burgundy. Mm-hmm. She's like, good job, Janky, good job. But by the way, don't get me wrong, I appreciated it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's some tweets. Bryce Bender says, my aunt loves to cook too. Unfortunately, she's kind of racist towards Muslims. Damn you, Christianity. Okay, no, it's okay. Don't damn anything. Jamie, this will be an ironic live tweet I'm reading. It's okay to make fun of Republicans and call their bullshit for their views, but Muslims? Hashtag not watching. Hashtag TYT Live. That would indicate you were watching. And you left a comment about something I said on the air. Okay, maybe Jamie's not watching anymore, but I'll address it anyway. Okay, you see, Republicans pick their party based on the ideology, theoretically. Now, some of them are just team players because their family was Republican. Those guys I excuse, believe it or not, more, okay? So some Muslims pick Islam because of their ideology. Mm-hmm. The converts, those are the ones to watch out for.
Yeah.
Okay, the zeal of the convert. Now, I know some great converts who are great human beings, okay? But most Muslims were just born into Islam, like most Christians were born into Christianity. So it becomes part of their identity. And if you say, are you a Muslim? They're like, yeah, of course I am, like any Christian would. But they didn't think through the ideology and all that stuff. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, and let's go to the top here for a couple of others. Oh, remember the line of war that I told you about? The guy who was going to go and join ISIS but got caught at O'Hare Airport. Tim Joyce says, the line of war won't have any trouble getting laid in prison. He'll be somebody's girlfriend by the end of the first day. Fortunately or unfortunately, that might be true. And then finally, Tom Zawacki says, ISIS sounds like it's reinventing the feudal system in the Middle East. The peasants will be rebelling soon. I think you're right about that. I mean, that's part of why I don't want to send ground troops. We go bomb the local population, they're going to want to join ISIS. If they live under ISIS for long enough and every goddamn thing is taxed, okay, I mean, look, we're pro-taxes. We ain't pro-taxes like that, right? Mm-hmm. Every time they withdraw money from the bank, ISIS takes a percentage, okay? They're going to hate that system and they're going to want to rebel against ISIS. You see what I'm saying? Let's be smart. But Tom's already got that figured out. Okay, all right. What do you got for us? I wanted to give you a fun name like J-Law. We're going to do J-Law first? Mm-hmm. Anna K? Nah, that sucks.
I like when you call me Casper. Just let's stick to that.
Yeah, I haven't called you AK-47 in a long time.
Yeah, you haven't. But it's okay. I like Casper better.
Okay, I'm going to think of a new one.
Okay, all right, good. All right, let's do an update on an older story. So Jennifer Lawrence was interviewed by Vanity Fair about the celebrity nude hacking scandal, and this is the first time she's released a statement about how she felt after her nude pictures were not only hacked but also leaked all over the internet. Well, she has some strong words for not only the hackers but for those of you who have actually looked at the pictures. So let me read you her exact statements from Vanity Fair. She says, "Just because I'm a public figure, just because I'm an actress does not mean that I asked for this. It does not mean that it comes with the territory. It's my body and it should be my choice. And the fact that it is not my choice is absolutely disgusting. I can't believe that we even live in that kind of world." So real quick, I want to focus on the last sentence of what she said and understand, I mean, she was a victim of the hacking, so of course she's going to be really upset about it. In that last sentence, I think I agree with her the most out of everything that she said, because when we did that story, there were so many people that were supportive of what the hackers did, even though it was a gross violation of privacy. You know what I mean? I don't begrudge people who looked at the pictures because it's curiosity, it's our voyeuristic nature, it is what it is. But for you to defend what the hackers did, I mean, how would you feel if the exact same thing happened to you?
Yeah, well, we know a lot of people would be very frustrated. In fact, the guy who publicized a lot of the pictures on Reddit was outraged when he was outed. Okay, and we didn't even see his junk, thank God. Okay, so of course you can't support people hacking in and stealing the pictures and say, and isn't it an obvious excuse like, oh, they're celebrities, they had it coming?
But
no, come on, you don't even really believe that.
But what does that even mean? They're
like, oh, well, they make money out of publicizing their bodies. Okay, well, that's their choice, and so you can't just. Then you would say that that's even more of a theft because you've stolen what they make money from and revealed it to the public. I mean, in some ways, you could argue that's worse.
Yeah, and when they do it in movies and in media, and they're profiting from it, it's their choice, right? It's one thing to hack into someone's account and leak photos that she has taken for her significant other. You know what I mean? That's a very intimate, personal thing.
Dude, just do what I did. I happen to see the pictures, but I did it by accident. Like, nobody believes that, right? So, but I was with someone at the time who was showing me the pictures, and I didn't understand the context they were in. I thought they were always on the internet.
Yeah.
And then I realized, it's a new leak. I shouldn't be looking at these pictures. But I'm not going around like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know, you made a movie, so I get to steal your pictures and look at your nudies.
Look, even if you did not accidentally look at them and you went
everybody hates me. Nobody believes that.
No one does. I don't believe you. But look, if you wanted to see them because you're curious, again, I don't begrudge you. It's human nature. But don't sit there and defend what the hackers did. It was wrong. There's no question about it. Anyway, here's more of what she had to say. I don't have anything to say I'm sorry for. People were wondering whether or not she was going to release an apology because now there are nude pictures of her on the internet. I was in a loving, healthy, great relationship for 4 years. It was long distance, and either your boyfriend is going to look at porn or he's going to look at you.
Correct answer is he's going to look at both.
That's
anyway.
100% accurate, yes. She also says it's not a scandal. Now, this is the part where I got a little uncomfortable. It is not a scandal, it is a sex crime. It is a sexual violation. It's disgusting. The law needs to be changed, and we need to change. That's why these websites are responsible. Just the fact that somebody can be sexually exploited and violated, and the first thought that crosses someone's mind is to make a profit from it, it's so beyond me. I just can't imagine being that detached from humanity. I can't imagine being that thoughtless and careless and so empty inside.
Damn. You're right. She is laying down the jail law. Look, I think that the sex offender registry is already too long, right? So it was built originally, we thought, for child molesters and stuff like that. We at least want to know if they're in our neighborhood. We understand that some people still disagree with that concept. But now, like, if you were taking a leak on the street, they put you on the sex offender list, right? And yada, yada. So we don't need to expand that. We don't need to call it a sex crime for it to be terrible, right? Yeah, it's the people who did it. Of course we should catch them and we should punish them. It's theft, it's invasion of privacy, etc. So But you know what? If it was your pictures, you might be as pissed as her.
Yeah, so I don't agree with her about it being a sex crime. I think that it's a different category entirely. But I don't blame her for being as angry as she is. I mean, she's the one who got violated, so understandably she's going to be really upset and really angry. Now, the final quote is where she's judging you if you have looked at the pictures. And this is where I kind of disagree with her, right? Here's what she says. Anyone who looked at those pictures, you're perpetuating a sexual offense. You should cower with shame. Even people who I know and love say, oh yeah, I looked at the pictures. I don't want to get mad, but at the same time I'm thinking, I didn't tell you that you could look at my naked body.
Right. Again, I understand the frustration at the end, right? And throughout. But the whole thing of perpetuating a sexual offense. Look, the reason I have even 1% credibility when I say I really didn't know when I was looking at first is that with Erin Andrews' pictures, I never looked because I thought because I knew ahead of time that the guy had violated her privacy and that's why the pictures were online and stuff. And I should have thought better of it as soon as I saw the first couple of pictures, and I looked at a lot of pictures. So I'm just as guilty as anybody else, okay? But with Erin Andrews, I thought, like, don't look at it. You're just encouraging it. So if you frame it that way, don't encourage these guys to steal these pictures, I think that's very fair, right? But to say that every kid that looked at your naked pictures is a sexual offender, come on, dude. That's too much.
Yeah, you start losing even the audience that supports you. So,
yeah.
Look, I feel bad for all the celebrities that had their privacy violated like that. It was wrong of it to happen, and I understand her frustration. Nonetheless, we got to be calm about the way we cover it, the way we respond to it. And I think that it is something that's against the law. I mean, there have been past cases of people who have hacked into celebrity accounts and leaked nude pictures, and they've gotten really, really long prison sentences as a result, 10 years behind bars, which, by the way, I argue might be a little too harsh, right? I think that there should be some consequence, but I don't know about 10 years behind bars. Nonetheless, this is the outcome of the leak.
And finally, even if you disagree with some of her statements, understand that you know, I'm not blaming her for it, because if I was in her situation, I'd be super pissed too, and God knows what I'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, moving on to something entirely different. We now have possible medical advancements for penises. That is
great.
For those who might have lost their penis because of a traumatic injury, or someone who might have a genital defect, or someone who might have had penile cancer and lost their penis as a result of that. Now, researchers from the Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine have looked into growing penises in the lab, which is really fascinating. Now, this is a serious story. Every time I say penis, I feel a little clownish.
No, I mean, are you kidding me? When you said genital defect, I thought,
No,
well, I
that's
mean,
serious.
does that count if it's a defect that makes it too large? Okay, now, serious story about penises in labs.
Okay, this is actually a good story, okay, because there is one particular researcher, Dr. Anthony Atala. He's at the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine. And what he's been focusing on since the early 90s is how they can do penis implants that are actually effective, that actually work. Now, in the past, if someone had lost a penis as a result of penile cancer or something like that, they had very few options when it came to implants. And I'm going to read to you what those options are, okay? Sexual function can be restored with a penile prosthetic placed inside. The prosthetics can be either malleable rods with the penis left in a permanently semi-rigid state and thus difficult to conceal. That sounds terrible. Or inflatable rods which have a saline pump housed in the scrotum. Both technologies have been around since the 1970s. The aesthetics, as you can imagine, are crude, and penetration is awkward, right? So this researcher, Dr. Atala, is like, well, how can we make this better, right? Now, there's another option, and the other option has to do with actual penis donors, right? But a lot of people actually, their bodies will reject it. I'll give you the details on that. Another option is a penis transplant from another individual, but this carries the risk of immunological rejection. The chance of organ death can be lessened with anti-rejection drugs, but these drugs have serious side effects. So what can you do? What he's trying to do is take a penis that has been donated by someone, right, and strip it of its cells, and then use the cells of the person who needs the penis. And it's a really complicated way of doing this, but the technique was pioneered for biological skin dressings. He would take a donor penis and soak it in a mild detergent of enzymes for a couple of weeks to wash away the donor cells. And then later, he would use the cells of the individual who needs the penis. That way, the body is less likely to reject it. Now, he's already tried this on rabbits, and it has worked successfully. So he's going to try to do this on human beings as well, but at first, he needs approval from the FDA.
Now, I'm going to do an ode to science, but before I do, for the 12% of you thinking, who would donate their penis? They're already dead. Yes. Okay, all right. So there's organ donations that people give. I filled out a card, so I suppose they can take anything of mine once I pass away. Now, I love science.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a debate in this world between religion and science is generally losing. I mean, you want to talk about miracles. We can regrow your penis.
It's not even about regrowing a penis. It's about taking someone else's penis. You can literally strip cells from that penis and then use your own cells so your body doesn't reject it. And
that's why I call it regrowing, because it's your cells.
Yeah, that's true. That's yeah.
I mean, look at how miraculous this is. But it's not. It's science.
I know.
You figure out facts, you apply those facts, and you come to amazing conclusions.
Yeah.
And look, I'm biased here because, one, of course, I've left a religion. We've talked about that a little bit over the last couple of days. But two, because science saved my life. I had a very serious skin condition that if I had it before the 1970s, it wasn't like it was life-threatening when I had it, but if I had it before the 1970s, I almost certainly would have died.
Oh my God.
Okay? So thank God that science came up with medicines that could combat it. And actually, since I had it, they've gotten much better at it, and it's easier to treat, better, treatment, etc. So, and I know countless people whose lives have been saved by science.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
think about vaccines for things that prevent polio and tuberculosis and all of these illnesses that you can get that you don't have to worry about now because of advancements in the medical field and because of scientific research. It's so incredibly important. That's why I love that documentary about the Higgs boson, because it really focuses in on why we need to fund basic science, because basic science is the fundamentals of everything that we see around us today.
Now, it doesn't mean that every scientist is right on every single issue.
No, they're always right.
Okay, and of course, we're infants in developing our knowledge base, right? I mean, we've only been around for a tiny period of years in the scope of the universe. So we're trying to piece this thing together. So sometimes theories go awry, etc. But overall, would you rather put your faith into something that can be proven and something that you can see are facts and acquired through hard work and knowledge, etc.? Or, I don't know, I think there's a sky god somewhere and I'm going to put my life in his hands instead of actually worrying about what the realities on the ground are. It's a no-brainer. Unfortunately, again, overall, we're losing that debate worldwide.
Yeah. So I want to give you some more facts, though, because what this scientist is doing is absolutely incredible. So just quickly going back to the whole penis thing, he wants to give us a really clear analogy so we understand what he's doing with his research. Think of it, referring to the penis, like a building. If you remove all the furniture and the people, you're still left with the main structure of the building. Then you replace the tenants with new ones, referring to the cells. That's the whole idea. It's just that the building is a penis and the tenants are cells. Love this guy.
Yeah.
All right, now some more.
I mean, some are buildings, of course, and some are sky rises.
What am I going to do with this guy? I'm trying to give you guys information, okay? Let me give you more. Okay? Atala has engineered half a dozen human penises, although they are not ready for transplanting. And just to give you a sense of other things he's worked on in the past, in 2006, Atala and his team announced the first successful bioengineered organ transplant, a bladder, which has been implanted into 7 patients since 1999. Earlier this year, he announced a successful follow-up of 4 women given bioengineered vaginas in 2005 to 2008. Bananas.
That's unbelievable, man. And a lot of people will be like, oh, God did not intend for artificial penises and vaginas. Well, then why did he allow us to discover the facts that allowed us to make them, right?
Sorry.
Science! only on this show is applauding science associated with a German barbarian yelling, "I will kill all you fucking dogs." Okay, all right.
All right, one last story before we go to break. A 42-year-old man in Indiana has been arrested again for having sex with animals. Now, Michael Besigano has been arrested in the past for having sex with a chicken and killing that chicken. And here's the really fascinating thing about this. He spent a considerable amount of time behind bars for doing so. So Besigano, according to reports, served more than 4 years in prison for a 2002 animal cruelty conviction for having sex with a chicken and killing it. Okay.
Wow.
So he spent, look, you shouldn't have sex with chickens and you shouldn't kill them afterwards. What he did was bad, right? He served 4 years behind bars as a result of that. Animal cruelty charges, right? After that happened, the state of Indiana realized, oh, we don't have any laws on the books that deal with bestiality. So maybe we should probably come up with a law. So then they came up with a law, and then later on he got arrested for the same thing again. Okay? But wait, 4 years behind bars? Do you guys understand what we're doing at factory farms to these chickens, where they're like in these crowded little coops and they're living in their own feces and then they're injected with hormones? I mean, isn't that considered animal cruelty as well?
I pay 59 cents extra for my eggs so that they could roam around, which was probably a lie, okay? But yeah, and I mean, the amount of chicken we murder on a yearly basis is untold. It is, I mean, it's a number that you can't wrap your head around. Now, should you have sex with chicken? No. We all agree. We all agree. And my guess is
how do you have sex with chicken?
I don't know, but my guess is that he didn't kill the chicken afterwards. He killed it during the intercourse, okay? So, so I'm worried about this dude, right? I'm worried about what he's gonna do to non-chicken. Right?
Maybe he performed oral sex on the chicken. Maybe that's what really went down.
Well, I mean, then that's kind of an impressive act, and I don't know how he did that. And I don't know if he's strictly with just chickens or he also is into cocks. Okay. So, yes, I'm worried about the dude. Yes, bestiality is obviously wrong. Yes, he should have asked the permission of the chicken, okay? Pretty sure he didn't get consent. But 4 years is an awfully long time for killing an animal that we massacre on a scale that is of epic proportions.
Yeah.
So too much. Yep. See, now Fox News will turn around and be like, "You see that? The liberals defending people who are into bestiality. We told you it would come to this. It would come
Maybe
to this."
they have a point. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Seventh Heaven star confesses on tape that he molested 3 girls. We'll give you the details on
Yeah, but
that
story has twists. Hold.
Yeah. We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this!
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United! We are! We are! Too strong!
There's thousands of volunteers, and you could be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy.
96% of Americans want it.
When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock.
We're coming for them!
Wolf-pack.com.